Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. It's me again, Chelsea, and today I'm going to be doing an end of year tag. However, I have tweaked it. So for the past couple of years I've been using different tags that people have put together and I have referenced them. I'm still going to reference, I believe her name is Destiny, her video that I used for my tag last year, because I've kind of just worked off of that but changed the questions to things that I actually can answer. I find that in a lot of these tags there are questions about who your favourite couples are, and I don't really care. For the most part, I try not to read romance anyways. Or like, what book makes you cry? I don't cry at books. I'm sorry, I have apparently no feelings, but that's besides the point. I have amended this tag and I have kind of made it a little bit more to me and to tailored to what I actually want to talk to you about at the end of the year. Now I'm reflecting back on 2024. So some of these I've taken from other tags. I've just kind of like amalgamated them, and then I've also thought of some things in my brain. But like I said, the video that I used last year, which I've kind of built off of from That Makes No Sense But You Know What I Mean, is linked down below, so be sure to check that out. It's actually very good and I liked the questions. There's just obviously a lot of questions that I just don't answer because they don't fit me. So if you want to do this version of the tag, which everyone does and we all do it in different ways, I do not know who the very first original creator of this is, I'm very sorry, but if you want to do this version, feel free. If you also do not cry at books and have favourite couples, feel free to try this. Just tag me in it because I want to see what you answer the questions. That's literally it. But I'm not claiming this is like a brand new tag and never seen before, because like, you know, it's not original at all. I've just changed the questions because apparently I can't answer all of the normal questions. So let's just stop babbling and get into it. So the first one I've said is a book or books that you've heard a lot about this year that you haven't read but you want to read, or they've inspired you to pick up a series. So for me, I've got a couple, the first being Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. I have seen so much hype for that book over the past couple of days, or ever since it's come out, that I want to start Brandon Sanderson next year properly. So I've put it on my priority TBR and we're gonna see if I can get through that far. I know I could read the Wind and Truth series all by itself, but I'm gonna start at the beginning and just try and read that way, like a lot of people have. However, I'm not gonna do the amazing things that I've seen people on BookTok do. People have been reading them in like 60 days, or like they set themselves a task in November until the book came out in December. Not gonna be doing that. I'm also gonna wait for the paperback of Wind and Truth to come out before I read that, because I do not have the rest of the hardbacks and I like consistency on my shelves. Another one is Five Broken Blades. I've heard mixed things about this book. I know it's a heist book and that's pretty much all I know. It is available on KU, so I have downloaded it and I will read it at some point. I also want to give it a try because it made it to the Goodreads finalists, so a lot of people have read it. Whether a lot of people liked it, I'm not sure, but I've heard a lot about it. And then the other one is The Tainted Cup. I've heard so much about it. I don't really know anything about it per se, but because I've seen so many people talk about it or like rate it really highly, I now want to know what's going on. It's also another finalist, I'm pretty sure, from the Goodreads Awards. So those are some books that I want to read that have released this year, that I want to read. Other books that I've heard a lot about that haven't released this year, but you know, people talk a lot about ACOTAR, The Final Empire, Mistborn, because of the Brandon Sanderson new release. I don't really know what else. But yeah, those are a few of those. Next I've got what genres did you read this year? So me personally, I predominantly read fantasy books. So I will put my chart on the screen from my core pile, but predominantly I read fantasy books. And then bear in mind as well, this isn't actually the end of the year, not that this can change too much. But I read fantasy, science fiction being my next biggest, mystery, paranormal, romance as a subgenre, or maybe it was romance fantasy. Apparently I've read 2 romance books this year, and short story. really. So that's fun. I've read a selection of genres. Fantasy was always going to be my main genre, let's be completely honest. I predominantly read fantasy. I would like to kind of try and branch out next year, but I don't really think it'll change too much because most of the things on my shelves are fantasy books. They just might be for different age range, so adult, YA, but I am kind of coming away from the YA books and staring more into adult fantasy at the minute. Favourite main characters from books you've read this year. So I've actually got a couple written down. I've got Amina El-Sarafi from The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi. I really enjoyed her as a character because she is an older woman, and that's not the only reason that I liked it. It is just something that is not... I don't read a lot of tales of older women who are mothers going on these adventures, you know, trying to fight the bad guy and rescue people. I thought that was really a really nice change of pace, and I really enjoyed reading from Amina's perspective because not only does she view things as she used to when she used to be a pirate, but she also kind of brings in what she's learned since becoming a mother as well, which was really interesting, and again, not something that I really read a lot from. I've got Captain Yalla, who is from Death's Disciples by Emma L. Adams. This was a SPIFBO finalist last year, semi-finalist last year, and I read that for SPIFBO. I loved the character of Captain Yalla as well because she is just such a strong person. Like, she's such a strong character. She has got an injury on her leg, but she just keeps going. She knows the job needs to be done, so she just keeps going, and I think it's so admirable, and I really love reading about strong women. Again, she's on the older side. She's not like 15 finding out that she's got magical powers. She is a ex-army captain. She used to fly war drakes, so there is fantasy sprinkled in there, but she herself is a pretty normal person, and I really enjoyed reading from that perspective. I've also got Lucan from the Silverblood Promise. I just thought that he was not necessarily actually an anti-hero, but because he is so just laid back, he gets kicked out of this school. His name is tarnished because there was an accident at a school that he used to go to, and he has been kind of thrown out of society. He's got an estranged relationship from his father, but when his father unexpectedly passes away and leaves him like a code that he has to kind of decipher, Lucan sets out on an adventure to figure out what it is that his father meant. This is such a strong start to a fantasy series, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to read the sequel and see where it goes. I will say there were also great side characters in that book as like a side note, but I really enjoyed Lucan as well. And then Anastasia and Josiri from the Legacy trilogy. I completed this trilogy this year by Matthew Ward. Loved it, really enjoyed it, but I love the character arc of Anastasia and Josiri just throughout the whole series. I love how they start off in the very first book. I can't tell you where they go to because that would spoil the book, but I do love how in the very first book Josiri is part of he's basically locked in his house because his mother tried to lead a rebellion, and he's kind of locked away as a symbol, and he's brought out for special occasions. And as Anastasia is the demon that is locked to his house as well. She was cursed and trapped there, and just them and their arc throughout their journey is just so beautiful. I just loved it. I love them. I love Anastasia's banter and her just snarkiness. I thought it was so good, and I just like watching Josiri like grow throughout the series, which is really nice to see. A book that surprised you. So I'm gonna be harping on about this until the cows come home. The Branded by Joe Riccioni. It was so good. It was a 5-star read for me. This is a fantasy romance book. We are following two sisters in this world. There was a disease that ravaged the lands, so in Isfolk, where we start our story, the people are divided in two. So you've got the Branded, who are weaker, they are always sick, they have got these blue brands all over their bodies, which is a payoff from this disease that ravaged the lands. And then you've got the Pure, who are seen as, well, they are stronger, immune, and the women from the Pure are treated like cattle, and they are literally just seen as breeding stock. So they're kept safe, fed well, but with the aim of pairing up with pure men to create pure children. However, that's not always how that works. But our main characters are Nara and Osha, and they are sisters. They used to live out in the forest, and when something terrible happens, they flee to the city, and they are taken in, and they are checked, and they are seen as pure, so they are put within the walls. But unfortunately, they do end up being kidnapped, and they realise that a life behind the walls isn't actually all that bad. I really enjoyed this character arc and this story. I thought it was really interesting. I just liked Nara as a character. She's really strong-willed, and she knows what she wants, and she goes after what she wants, and Osha just kind of follows behind. She is the nicer sister. People kind of fawn over Osha, whereas Nara is a little bit edgier, which isn't always seen as so great, but I just really loved their story and where this book ended. The sequel releases next year, so I cannot wait to finish the duology. A new favourite author that you discovered in 2024. Now, this doesn't have to be an author that you have found that has debuted in 2024. This could just be an author that you've read backlist from, and for me it's definitely Matthew Ward. I've read the entirety of the Legacy trilogy and loved it, and I have also read the very first book from the Soulfire saga, which is The Darkness Before Them, and I have really enjoyed that as well. I really enjoy his writing. The political and battle scenes within the Legacy trilogy are amazing. I was so hooked. Also, the fact that the second book in the trilogy was my favourite book. Like, an author who can keep me hooked through a middle book is pretty special in my opinion. And I have also had the joy of interviewing Matthew. I've spoken to him a couple of times, and he is absolutely lovely. So definitely can't wait to continue checking out any works that he brings out. The third book for the Soulfire saga I think comes out next year. I'm not too sure, but I haven't seen anything about it, so I'm holding out hope that it does happen, but I haven't got it on my anticipated releases just in case it doesn't. Then I've got most frustrating book that you read, and I'm not classing this as frustrating, as in I was like, oh, I want a DNF, this is rubbish. But my most frustrating read was Mushroom Blues by Adrian Gibson. This is an indie book, and it is also the finalist pick for my group for Spiffbo. So the way I am taking frustrating is because our main character, Henrietta, she has been exiled to this new place that humans have colonized, and it is filled with people who are actually mushroom people, and they have mushroom caps, and it's a really interesting world. But the reason I found this book so frustrating is because Henrietta is just so adamant that she doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be there, she doesn't like the people, she doesn't listen to Koji, who was my favourite character in this book. I really, really liked him and just how he was. She just frustrated me because I was like, just listen to him. He knows what he's talking about. He is from this place. Take his advice. And she just doesn't for the longest time, and I did find that quite frustrating. And I think that's a really good sign from an author's writing perspective as well, that an author can frustrate you but you still enjoy their book. I think that's a skill within itself. Favourite sequel of the year? It's The Legacy of Steel by Matthew Ward, which I keep talking about. It's the second book in the Legacy trilogy. Somehow it was my favourite book. Not somehow, but it was a middle book and I absolutely loved it. So there you go. It was that. Longest book you read? The longest book I read was The First Binding. That is a chunky boy. It's over 800 pages. I really enjoyed that book as well. I love the storytelling aspect. I loved the fact that we are following our main character Ari. At the very beginning I wasn't massively fussed. I was just like, okay, we're seeing this guy as he is now, brilliant. But then he flashed back and went back to where he came from and how he became who he was, and I found that so interesting. I love context, I love backstory, so the fact that we've pretty much got the whole first book of just backstory, absolutely loved it. Then I've got, on the flip side of that, the shortest book you read, and I'm pretty sure it is New York Minute by Stephen Orion, which is his indie release for the year. That is a mystery set in a dystopian New York City, where our main character is hired by a mafia boss to look for his missing daughter, who has just vanished. And it's really interesting. It's really fast paced. Obviously it's very short, but, well, not necessarily obviously, sometimes the shortest books can feel like the longest, but it is really fast paced and really enjoyable, so I definitely recommend checking that one out. Now I want you to show off your special edition of the year, the special edition that you are proudest to have on your shelf. I've bought some very pretty special editions this year, but the one I'm going to show off in this video is God Eater by Rob J. Hayes. This is the version from his Kickstarter. We've got black sprayed edges, we have got a dust jacket, and then underneath the dust jacket we have got the matching cover that matches the other 2 books in this trilogy of trilogies. I just love how good this quality is from an indie book. Like, just how far indies have come is fantastic, and I'm in awe of how beautiful this special edition is. I am yet to read this one. I have read Demon, I need to read Deathless, and then I will read Herald, but I'm excited. I'm terrified as well because it's massive, but I am looking forward to finally reading these books. Next, I want you to tell me a book that you've not stopped thinking about. For me, it's The Branded. Like, I know I keep mentioning this book, but for me, that is just, it's that. Now, then I've got book you would reread. I've got a couple, both of them are from Matthew Ward. I would reread the entirety of the Legacy trilogy, just to re-immerse myself in that world, but also The Darkness Before Them, especially before the 3rd book comes out. So those ones. Do you have books that you need to finish before the end of the year? Yes, I do, and I have recently done a big cull on my currently reading list because I want to finish books by the end of the year. So a couple that I've got on my list are The Empire of Storms and The Tower of Dawn tandem read by Sarah J Maas. Lightfall by Ed Crocker, I need to finish that. Witch Hazel by T.C. Roberts Finn, I need to finish that. What else have I got? The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. There's actually a couple more. Gogglemog by Jeff Noon and Steve Beard. Griever's Blood by Alexander Darwin. There's probably a couple more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but yes, there are a fair few that I need to get finished before the end of the year. The next question, prompt, whatever you want to call it, is your favourite quotes. Now, I don't usually keep track of quotes, so I'm pulling out my Always Fully Booked planner because I have actually written down some this year. Not many, but I've written down some. So I'm going to give you some examples because I really haven't written that many down. So I have got: they think to take down a shade of death with just 10 men, they should have bought an army, which is from The Heresy Within by Rob J. Hayes. Then I've got: you must eat cake with your shithole because all I'm hearing from your cake hole is shit, which is from Gogmog. Gogmagog, I should say. A thing should be done with accomplishment or not at all, which is The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward. And then one from Justin Lee Anderson's The Bitter Crown is: I took her, she's famous. Which is in reference to a scene where a character is being called out for going into the dungeon without proper authentication or like approval or something. So she points to Alendria, I think I'm saying her name completely wrong, but one of the characters, and she goes, well, I took her, she's famous. Like, that's a get out of jail free card, which I really appreciated in that scene. Most anticipated books for the new year. So I have filmed a video with all of my anticipated releases, which I don't think will have gone up yet as this video goes up. So some of them include, what am I excited for? Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, The Ilarian Code by B.F. Peterson, Pollen by Jeff Noon, the third and final book to Stephen Orion's newest trilogy, which I'm excited for and I'm kind of terrified for, The Rising by Joe Riccioni, which is the sequel to The Branded, to name a few. So I am looking forward to a fair few books next year. This is one that I've put in because I take part in judging. So I've written it as like one of two ways. So book competitions and or readathons that you took part in this year will you be continuing in 2025. So for me, I took part in, or I'm taking part in Spiffbo. I plan to continue with that. I did judge in Sphinx this year, which was the novella version of Spiffbo. I will not be continuing. I felt like I added too much onto my plate for that. What else? Readathons. I tried to take part in the Magical Readathon twice, failed both times. Will next year be the year? I don't know. I don't think Becca is doing Bookopoly next year. If she does, I might take part, I might not. I think I might just step back from readathons a little bit more, because I'm not doing well in the let's have a prompt and we have to make a book fit into that prompt and then you have to read it. I really enjoy planning the readathons. I just don't seem to be reading the books. So maybe next year I will take a step back from doing the readathon stuff. Reading goals and reflection. Reading goal and reflection from last year, and then your goals for 2025. I am doing a whole video on my goals, but just like an overall oh jeez, I can't even say it, but an overall reflection of 2024 is I managed to still read. And I still read quite a lot. Like, I think I've read 60 plus books at the minute where I currently am as I'm recording this video, and for some people that's unheard of, and I am very proud of myself for being able to read that many books. However, it is not the goal that I wish. So I am also a little bit not disappointed, that's a little bit too strong a wording for me. I am a little bit sad that I didn't achieve 100 books this year. That was my aim. I have noticed an uptick in my screen time this year, which is not ideal, and I really need to work on that next year, but at least it's something I've noticed. I am really happy with the books that I have read. However, I don't feel like I've read a wide enough array of books to give you like a full breakdown on like best, worst, all these things. I also feel like I've been really out of the loop with new releases, and that'll probably continue to happen if I'm completely honest. But when I looked at the Goodreads awards, and I'm glad it wasn't just me, I filmed a reaction video to that. I'll link it up here for you in case you want to check it out, and I literally knew barely any of the books. Now that's very rare. Usually when I don't read that genre, I've heard of the books because a lot of people are talking about them, but I just had no idea. So either I'm scrolling and I'm watching stuff, but I'm not watching anything book related, which is definitely not true, or I am just really behind the times. I don't know, could be either. I don't know, but I just had no idea what people were talking about in the Goodreads goals, so I want to keep an eye on that as well, maybe next year, and maybe next year I'll have read more popular books. I'm not sure, but I think I've done well. I'm proud of myself for what I've read, even though I felt very slumpy for a lot of the months this year. I'm hoping next year it upticks. Next year a goal is, well, it's not really a goal, but I just want to be more aware of what I'm doing, what I'm picking up, whether I'm picking up my phone or my book. I want to make an effort with that. After this year, what are you prioritizing for the following year? So I am prioritizing, I want to prioritize reading, I want to prioritize spending time with my loved ones, and I just want to prioritize enjoying it. Like, as much as I'm setting a reading goal and I'm setting a high number of books that I want to achieve, that's not because I want to compete against other people. I want to take that competition bit out, especially within like numbers on content and all that fun stuff, but I'm still going to set myself high goals for my reading because that's for me. I'm competing against myself, and that is the best way to keep myself engaged. I know that. But I want to take the competition out of everything else. All the social medias, all the comparisons, all that rubbish. I just want to post content that I enjoy watching, and if you find my content and you enjoy watching it too, then welcome, hello. If you don't and you don't want to watch it, fine, you don't have to. Like, this is just my corner of the internet where I shout my thoughts, and if people want to listen and respond, then they can, and that's the main thing. So yeah, that is my end of year tag. Like I said, I have linked Destiny's video down below because some of it I have amended from the tag that I did last year, and other things I've just added in for myself to talk about with you guys, so be sure to check that out as well. But otherwise, that is everything for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please give it a like if you have, and it really supports me and my channel. If you want to leave me a comment, leave me a comment with, oh, I don't know, end of year stuff. So tell me anything. What was your favourite book? What was your favourite author? Who did you discover? Anything you want to say about your reading for 2024, let me know down below in the comments. And if you just want to leave me an emoji, leave me a penguin emoji, because I love penguins. And if you want to see more of me, please consider subscribing down below and ring that notification bell to get notified every single time I upload new videos. I'm uploading every day until Christmas Eve, so be sure to come back tomorrow for another video. Otherwise, I will leave you to it, and I will see you again tomorrow for another video. Bye! The Christmas tree's on fire, Santa's holding the lighter. My parents are both liars, I got gifts but 1 subscribers.
just happened.